beautiful evening. This is a Friday Night Live. Um, at least where I am, it's still Friday night. Um, it's Friday night, and we've had a very beautiful day. And now the kids are settled, and now you're hearing me echoing through because my bae um, is logging in over on his phone so that he can work the chat through the True Crime Story Break channel. And yeah, we're still getting this stuff figured out, guys. Anyhow, I'll just start with a weird a weird as heck story out of Colorado. What's going on there? And I just wanted to talk to people and remind everyone to be safe and hike with the buddy system, etc. And for all I know, the guy's been caught now, but as of my last research on it, the guy has not been caught. They're looking for a white male between 20 and 30 years old with dark hair who wears a dark backpack, and that's about it. It's the Jefferson County, Colorado police are the ones that put out these reports saying that in the Conifer and Evergreen areas of Colorado, which are kind of near Denver, they've had 7 reports, and the behavior of this guy is escalating. He is accosting female hikers that are on their own out there, and the main trails that this is taking place on are the Flying J Ranch trails and in Three Sisters Park. On April 3rd, he was nude, and he went out onto the trail and touched the buttocks of a female hiker, and then he fled. Then he escalated, and on June 13th, he confronted a female, and he was naked, and he began to masturbate out on the trail, and she made a ruckus, and he ran for the trees. And then there were 3 separate occasions on July 18th where he fondled 2 women and flashed a third. And then on June 24th, he did the same thing, but he also attempted to rip off the clothing of a female hiker. So be careful out there and hike in the buddy system and watch out for weird stuff. And I don't know what's up with that guy, but it does sound like a concerning escalation of behaviors. And I know that also there are drug-induced stuff. There was a guy that was also nude and picked up in Garden of the Gods like a week or so ago. He actually was self-harming, also naked and self-harming, cutting himself, and police were able to subdue him, throw a net over him and everything, and get him to the hospital because he had injured himself in the face. And that's really disturbing, not just for him and his family and stuff, but for everybody that witnessed him. Weird stuff. This is a beautiful life. The world is beautiful and interesting, but it's also oftentimes weird. Next, I'm going to talk about Carlee Russell and what's going on in that. I'm not going to conjecture on, her state of mind or anything like that. I don't have enough information on that part. I just know that earlier today she turned herself in, was charged, and then released on bond on charges of making false police reports and such for that period of time where she disappeared for 49 hours. We still don't know where she was during that amount of time. But she bonded out $2,000 bond, and this took place in one state where she's bonded out. Their misdemeanor charges, and um, if she's found guilty, the prosecution has stated that they're going to be looking for around $6,000 in restitution from her. Meanwhile, in Florida, an 11-year-old girl, and we don't know whether she's actually influenced by the Carlee Russell case or if it's just something, because she ended up telling police that it was a YouTube challenge, but I haven't seen anything about it. So maybe if any of you know about this YouTube challenge this kid was following, let me know in the comments. Anyhow, this 11-year-old kid called 911 from her home. She was on her cell phone. There were adults home too, but they didn't know what she was doing. Anyway, for 90 minutes, she talked to 911, reporting that her 14-year-old friend had been kidnapped, that they were following that she was in a vehicle that was following the vehicle that the kidnapper was in, that the kidnapper had a gun, the kidnapper was in a van, and she just had the police and helicopters and everything out looking for this van with this kidnapper in it, and none of it ever took place. And they were able to ping her phone, show up at her house. Her dad answered the door, and she was on the phone and with the 911 when the police showed up at the house and took her into custody. Her face was blurred on film when news crew showed her being arrested, and you could hear her say, "I'm never going to do that again." But anyway, she was taken to juvenile, and she's facing both misdemeanor and felony charges. And and she's still in the juvenile detention unit. So Florida treating things very different from neighboring state where Carlee Russell was. And that's one of the things that really makes me wonder of why our states don't have more uniform punishments or whatever for crimes, so that you don't get away with stuff in one state that like some people say it's because of Colorado's laws is why some of these offenders come to Colorado. And I don't know if that would fix it or not. It just seems kind of wonky that in some places it's just a slap on the wrist and misdemeanor, and in other places they throw the book at you, whether you're an adult or a kid. And it just I don't know, makes me wonder. Anyhow, that's what's going on with that stuff. And then, as I promised yesterday, I'm going to do a little bit more of the Barry is a Wanker. We're talking about Barry Morphew, the man who was charged with the murder of his wife Suzanne, and then due to mistakes on the part of the 11th Judicial, the incompetent DA, Linda Stanley, at the helm of that, the charges were withdrawn without prejudice, so that the charges can be brought back. But then he was free to go. Then he was on probation because he also, while his wife was missing, went and voted for Trump in her name with her vote while she was missing, saying that he didn't know that he couldn't vote in her place, and that he felt that she would have voted for Trump anyway. Anyhow, more reasons why I believe deep in my heart that Barry Morphew killed his wife Suzanne. Reasons why Barry is a wanker is that on Friday, May 8th, Barry was, this is his recollection to CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, and it's from the arrest affidavit. Barry said that on that day, it was like there was no fight ever happened, and that Suzanne texted him asking him to do some errands and finding out when he was coming home, and making plans. Uh, excuse me, I'm gonna have to take a drink of water. Jeepers, I'm thirsty. Anyhow, so he said that that's what was going on Friday, May 8th. We also know that Friday, May 8th is when Barry claims that the two of them went together to Moonlight Pizza in Salida, and that Suzanne was in the vehicle, and he went and got the pizza, and then he said they ate some of it in a salad, and they ate some of it in the vehicle, and they went home and they finished it or something on that Friday. But also from the affidavit, we notice that at the time that he says the two of them went to Moonlight Pizza, and that there supposedly was a photo taken by Suzanne of Barry outside the vehicle picking up the pizza that was supposedly sent to one or both of the Morphew daughters. Well, mysteriously at the same time, Suzanne was texting Jeffrey Libler, her lover, and was saying that she was alone. And, guess who's alone again and stuff. And so that's a little bit odd. Anyway, Barry told them that on Saturday, May 9th, he went home and had veggie soup for lunch, and that he and Suzanne sat out in the sun, and that then they decided to grill steak for dinner. And then later on, he was questioned about the fact that there was only one set of dishes, and then he's saying that they had steak together, but they shared a steak and they used the same plate. And he was having trouble telling CBI what Suzanne was wearing or where she was the last time that he had seen her. He said that, at one point he said that on Sunday, the 10th, before he left the house, that all he saw was a lump in the blankets in the bed, and he heard snoring. But that the last time he had seen her was Saturday evening around 8 or 9, when they were having marital relations. But he also said that Saturday evening, Suzanne decided to clean daughter Mallory's sheets and stuff, and that she was doing laundry that night. So, I don't know which it was, the relations or the laundry. And he also says the last time he saw Suzanne, she was naked because they were having relations, and that was somewhere between 8 and 9 p.m. And then he must have fallen asleep. But then his truck at 9:30 was having the doors open and close and stuff like that, so that wasn't quite matching up either. And so that's pretty weird. And also in the affidavit, on another occasion, the CBI was questioning Barry, and they were talking to him about some of Suzanne's messages to Jeff Libler, who was her lover. And one of the things that Suzanne said was, he's still wanting Arizona. And, this is referring to Barry. And then Barry's asking, why is she telling this guy about me? And it's just kind of one thing that, now I'm off on a tangent here. What is the relationship between Arizona and Barry Morphew? And, that's something for another dig, another day. Anyway, then Barry asks the CBI guys, can you tell me what state he's from? Because they're asking, do you think he's from Arizona? Is that why you're asking about Arizona and stuff like that? And then Agent Grusing says, he's from your home state. Then, rather telling, Barry's response is, Indiana, from my hometown. And Agent Grusing never said the guy was from his hometown. Indiana is a large state. But Barry says, he's from my hometown. And Jeff Libler just happens to be from his hometown. And Barry has all along stated that he had no idea that Suzanne was having an affair, but Suzanne has said that that Wednesday, Barry had accused her of having a boyfriend. So when did he know about Jeff Libler, who is from his hometown? And another thing from the arrest affidavit that was very interesting was that they were talking about the tranquilizer dart and stuff, and I don't believe that that really has anything to do with what happened to Suzanne, but I do think that this next piece of what Barry offered up to CBI did have to do with it, and that was, he said, I've shot deer from that little breezeway between the garage and the laundry room from out the door. And why did he offer that information, for one thing, and why is he saying that he shot a deer from out of the doorway in the breezeway between the laundry room and the garage? Was there evidence that was found, or was there evidence that he managed to pick up but he was worried about it in the breezeway area? And Suzanne, according to Barry, had been at some point that weekend laying out just outside of that breezeway. So did something happen there? Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And let me know whether or not I'm getting through to you with the facts of the case and why I believe that Barry killed Suzanne. And just how damning all these little pieces of evidence that I keep bringing up are. And each time I'm bringing you different pieces of evidence, and all together, you put it all together, it's just too much, in my opinion. Anyway, more damning evidence, in my opinion, is that, because if he was innocent, you've got to figure this guy's wife went missing on May 10th. But then on June 1st, he filed for guardianship of Suzanne in Hamilton County, Indiana. They were residents of Colorado, but they did own a property in Indiana. And also, Colorado does honor guardianships from other states. But, he didn't file for guardianship in the state that they were both residents of and where Suzanne was last known to be. He went back to Indiana less than a month after her disappearance and filed for guardianship. Then on June 25th, 2020, Barry bought an empty lot at Longhorn Estates in the Salida area for $160,000. Then he sold it back to the person he purchased it from on February 17th, 2021 for $150,000. And I'm just wondering what that was all about. He made a $10,000 loss, or was he paying somebody $10,000? That's pretty interesting that he's doing these transactions and stuff while Suzanne's missing. He also filed for a title change on July 13th, 2020 on Suzanne's vehicle. And then on July 16th, and May, June, July, that's 2 months after Suzanne was reported missing, he sold her Range Rover to a couple who are residents in Indiana. And then, more water. On March 3rd, 2021, he sold their Puma Path home for $1,625,000. And March 5th, 2021, in an interview with CBI, Barry was quoted as saying that Suzanne made him a monster and that things just blew up. What was he referring to? And in that same conversation, he asked them if he could have immunity, but then he didn't get into detail of what he wanted immunity for, but he told them that he wanted immunity. Anyway, other things, and who knows whether these are possible co-conspirators or what was going on, but just things that aren't right in this case, is that Sunday, May 10th, the day that Suzanne was reported missing, George Davis, who was one of Barry's best friends there in Salida, was a fellow firefighter. Barry was a volunteer firefighter. Anyway, George Davis was also seen in that body cam footage that I've shared on my channel, and a lot of people have shared on their channels as well. George Davis was seen on that at the scene when Barry arrived, where the infamous bike location where Suzanne's bicycle was found. George was there. He greeted Barry, gave him a hug. Anyway, George Davis was interviewed, and he stated that he received a call from Chitty County Fire District Lieutenant Tim Nelson, telling him that a bike was found near Barry's house. And George Davis says that after he was told by this other firefighter that that Barry's wife's bike, or a bike, was found near Barry's house, he says that George Davis says that he called Barry on the fire radio, and it was around 5:30 or 6 p.m. that he called Barry on the fire radio, and Barry stated that he was just outside of Buena Vista, which is like 45 minutes from that area, where Barry showed up, where the bicycle was found. That's a 45-minute trip, and George Davis is saying the phone call took place around 5:30 or 6 p.m. But then we also, taking a look at this arrest affidavit, see that the bike was found a little after 7:31 p.m. So how did this fire department guy call George Davis before 5:30 to tell him that the bike had been found? And then George calls Barry, and Barry's told between 5:30 and 6 that the bike's been found, but the bike wasn't found for another hour and a half. And it takes 45 minutes or so to get from Buena Vista to the bike location, but Barry showed up around 9:30 p.m., a little after 9:30. So that's 3 hours. Why did it take him 3 hours to make a 45-minute trip? Makes you wonder. And Barry, as always, giving me Letitia vibes. Fluffy Bunny. Buena Vista is spelled Buena Vista. And when I first learned that it was called Buena Vista, you could have blown my mind. But there's a lot of places in Colorado that are pronounced far differently than what you would think when you see them spelled out. Especially when you consider the history of Colorado and how these Hispanic type names, you would think that they would be pronounced that way, but they're not. Oh well, I can think of a lot of other places that have really strange names too. So that's neither here nor there, but that was my Barry is a Wanker for tonight's video. Just a few facts to think about, and I'm gonna keep doing this, getting the facts out there until something happens in this case. Praying that Suzanne is found soon. Hoping that Barry doesn't get a moment's peace, pretty much. I want him to know that there are people out there that see him, that know what he did. Ah, a bug! Eee. I'm not a huge fan of bugs, but for the most part, things don't unsettle me too much. But I don't like bugs that I don't know what they are landing on me. Um, the only bugs that super freak me out, though, are ticks, and there's not any ticks right here. Ticks and poisonous spiders. Those are things that do not float my boat, so to speak. Let me peek at the comments in here to see if there's anything. Okay, Fluffy Bunny, you're in here. It's 7 a.m. where you are. Wow. Well, good morning. Is it 7 a.m. Saturday?
Tomorrow morning, JuleZ.
Huh?
It's tomorrow morning.
Okay, it's tomorrow morning?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
I usually tell everybody good morning.
And yeah, and my hubby points out, he's saying, you mean he shot a deer from his doorstep? That's like shooting a visitor. And there's no sport in that. Exactly. I'm not a hunter, but even if I was, I would consider my yard to be like sacred, and any wildlife that came there would not be fair game. They'd be visitors. It's just seems like no sport at all. Does anybody know whether he actually ate anything that he hunted, or if he was strictly a trophy hunter? I'd like to know that too. And Fluffy Bunnies point out, these are the last things I would be thinking of doing if my husband was missing and I thought somebody had kidnapped him. Exactly, same here. I definitely wouldn't be like, oh, I need to get power of attorney, I need to sell his car right now, and stuff like that. I just can't imagine. Especially, maybe it's just because of my affinity with vehicles, but especially a car that seems like such a personal thing, and he's there getting rid of the car immediately, and and this is only a month after she's gone missing. It's if he was an innocent man, you would think that he would be thinking that there's so many different things that could have happened, and at that point nobody knew that Suzanne had an affair. So at that point, unless Barry already did know that, but the general public didn't know that, the law enforcement didn't know that, so that wasn't a possibility in anyone's minds. That wouldn't be one of the scenarios. So the only things he could be thinking of that time is that somebody took her, and if he was thinking that somebody took his wife, why in the heck would he sell her car or start liquidating their assets when he would think that he would be falling apart and just wanting her back, and keeping the hope up because it's only a month, but he's liquidating everything and getting rid of her car.
Shame on him. Mm-hmm. We are very car dependent here in the United States.
Yeah, car's a very personal thing, and like my hubby said, we're very car dependent here in the United States, and it just seems weird that he sold her car. And yeah, Fluffy Bunny, I'd be thinking of search parties and flyers and supporting kids as well. And yeah, it's Friday night here. So anyway, Barry's a wanker. We know from women coming forward that Barry had been putting his feelers out there, that he had been partaking of dating sites. We know from the arrest affidavit that they found evidence of Barry being on dating sites on his phone. And Barry himself also stated that he would take his phone and put it into airplane mode to not be traced, but he also told the police that he didn't do that. So, he was always telling lies, and there's so much. That arrest affidavit, even though there were mistakes made, and some of the stuff is kind of ridiculous in there, but you go beyond that and you just look at the bare facts, like the GPS locations for Barry, the GPS locations for the phones, the messages from Suzanne, the pattern of phone calls between Barry and Suzanne, the fact that they had almost no communication between the two of them for quite some time prior to this, but then suddenly there's a whole bunch of communication between Suzanne's phone and Barry's phone. That's another thing that was catching my eye when I was reading the arrest affidavit, is that sometimes it says Suzanne called Barry or Barry called Suzanne. Other times it says Barry's phone and Suzanne's phone, like they didn't know for sure who was using the phones. And there was a pattern also of abuse and control on Barry's part that he readily admitted. Obviously, he didn't think that there was anything wrong with it, his controlling behavior. And he actually admitted doing things that in the state of Colorado, and I believe in several other states, if not all of them, are constituting child endangerment, child neglect, child abuse charges due to exposing children to domestic abuse situations. And with domestic abuse, doesn't have to be physical abuse, it can be emotional abuse and stuff like that. You're not supposed to drag children into arguments. And Barry admitted that he had dragged the kids into the arguments, gone and gotten the kids and hauled them down to face Suzanne and tell the kids, hey, you know what? Your mom is nuts. She's accusing me of having an affair. I'm not having an affair. Take my side, that kind of thing. And Suzanne, of course, wouldn't do anything in front of the kids and wouldn't rise to the bait. And so Barry was poisoning the kids against Suzanne also. And at one point, one of the daughters was texting Suzanne while Barry and Suzanne were on vacation in Mexico, and Barry texted the kid back telling her that, oh, hey, Kavita, telling her that, hey, you're not reaching your mom, you're reaching me on this phone. And, that's when he admitted that there were times that he took Suzanne's phone from her so that he could look at it and stuff. And he was asked about another time when Suzanne had said that, recalling an argument with him, she was telling somebody, I believe it was her friend Sheila, and Suzanne was saying that she wrestled free from Barry. So Barry was asked about that, and Barry's all like, oh, well, I never put my hands on her and restrained her. But then he went and said, but I would push into her and push her against the wall and pin her there with my body. And, that's not okay, and that's very intimidating. He was much larger than her. There's just, all these things that he thought was okay that he did that was abuse, and he admitted to these things. And so you see a pattern. And if you study domestic violence, if you're experienced with it, if you know anyone in that kind of situation, you know that these things tend to escalate. And that's more stuff that goes into, for one thing, that Barry's a wanker, because that's just not the way you treat other people. And, you know, and we know from Barry's own admissions as well that Barry said that when they would get into arguments, he would threaten to off himself. He would try to jump out of the car while Suzanne was driving and stuff like that. And he was always, going over the top, dramatic. I'll go tell the girls that you don't love me anymore, and then I have to move out and stuff like that, making Suzanne the bad guy every time. And Suzanne was trying, but then she came to a decision around January of 2020, and she told her friends, Sheila and Jeff, that she was done, that she was making plans to get out of the relationship. And in one of the communications, one of the last communications with Jeff Libler, she was saying that she was thinking around August that she was going to be free of Barry. And we also know that she was making plans that week that the girls were on vacation, she intended to talk to Barry about ending the marriage, and that she wanted to do things civilly. She wanted to move into an apartment in Salida with the daughter, and she was willing to get a job. She was willing to be poor. She just wanted to be free of Barry. And Kavita was just talking about some things that were in the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit, giving more of the facts, more of my Barry's a Wanker series, where I was just bringing the facts to light out of it, letting people know the facts of the case. And prior to that, I talked about Carlee Russell and the fact that she's gotten 2 misdemeanors, and she made bail. The bail was at $2,000, and that similar charges in a different state carry a different punishment. That there was an 11-year-old girl in Florida that had the same charges filed against her, but in Florida, those charges are a felony, and she's still incarcerated in a juvenile detention facility. And I talked about how it kind of boggles my mind or confuses me about how here in the United States, each state has its own statutes and its own punishments for things, and while something might be a felony in one state, it might only be a misdemeanor in another, and it just I kind of wish there was a uniform criminal code to where people didn't go traveling to other states to commit crimes because they know that the punishment is lesser in those states. And then before that, I was talking about how there is some cray-cray guy this summer frequenting some of the hiking trails, and that he's getting bolder, and I hope he's caught before things escalate to worse than they are, because he started off being a flasher, then he started touching female hikers that were on their own, while in each of these encounters he's stark naked, wearing nothing but a backpack. And then the last attack, he tried to rip the woman's clothes off of her, and then ran off into the woods. And this is a state of escalation, starting with April 3rd, when all he did was flash himself, and then the next time he masturbated in front of a woman, and then the next time after that he touched the buttocks of a hiker, and then after that he reaches the point where he has tried to tear somebody's clothes off. And I'm just wanting people to be cautious and know that when you go hiking and stuff, it's safer to have a buddy. And if you don't have a buddy with you, um, carry some bear spray or something, and or a stun gun or whatever. Don't take any nonsense, and it's not your fault if something like that happens. Do report it. Um, it's not your fault whatsoever. And also, I mentioned drugs. There was a person that was on drugs in Garden of the Gods a couple weeks ago, and he also stripped down naked, but he was stripped down naked and he was cutting himself with a kitchen knife. And luckily, law enforcement, before he did too serious harm, but he did harm himself in the face, and so, but they were able to throw a net over him and take him to detox and all that. And it's just like there's some crazy people out there, and there's a serious issue here in the United States where mental health care isn't what it should be, and it's not available to everyone. And I think it should be, and I think there should be more follow up on it. And it's just another thing, like the whole Taylor Schabusiness thing. You see that that she was escalating also, and that there was drug use involved in all of this. And of course, she's been ruled sane, responsible for what she did to Shad Therion. We all know what she did to him, and it's possible that it was a meth-induced psychosis when she did that, but that's not an insanity defense, and not in any of the 50 states. And that she has had several run-ins where she has been intoxicated on meth and other amphetamines, and was having psychotic breaks, and was put in on the mental holds for that, got sobered up, got released to society again, only to use again. And yeah. And in Taylor Schabusiness' case, the time that she was institutionalized for a period of time, I guess it was like a couple months, and 6 weeks or so. And it turns out that time, and she was court ordered to take some medication and all that, but it turns out that she was pregnant with her child at the time, and she was and when she was admitted to the facility, they tested her, and she had amphetamine, methamphetamine, and THC in her system, and they detoxed her. She was having delusions and hallucinations and everything. And then after she was detoxed and they had her on medication, she was stabilized and normal, and she was released. And then she gave birth, and her grandparents took custody of her child, and she was following through on court-ordered stuff, having her employment and stuff. And then she started using meth again, and was using meth at the time that she murdered Shad Therion. And Kavita, I think the way that they're saying that that she made up the toddler and stuff is that because of her confession, we're never going to know what she actually saw or what was actually done. That's my opinion. We're not going to know, because apparently she just wants this whole thing to be over. Her parents want this to be over, and they have hired an attorney, and the attorney is working on getting her the best deal that they can, and they're just trying to put this whole thing behind them. So I'm thinking that we're never going to know what actually happened, where she was those 49 hours that she was missing. We're just not going to know any of that. And I don't know what they're going to work out between them, law enforcement and all that. Whether I don't know whether there's actually going to be a trial. I'm leaning towards that they're really going to just settle things behind closed doors. That there's going to be some sort of plea deal and some sort of agreement as to what the punishment or restitution will be. Prosecution's already been talking about that they think that it's going to be they think that the prosecution's going to be asking for $6,000 in restitution. Looking at her family and herself, it looks like $6,000 would not be a problem for them. So I don't know if she would even need to I don't know if she's actually going to do any jail time at all, because it is 2 misdemeanor charges, and what law enforcement is really wanting out of this is restitution because of the man hours that went into looking for her. And I know that her family wants this all to go away, wants her back out of the public eye. And Edie Purdy saying attention-seeking behavior, question mark, she got that. And I don't know what her mental state or anything like that is. And I do think that she is going to need counseling of some kind, because I don't know what she experienced during this time, and I don't know what her reasoning was for the confession to take place the way it did. And we just have to accept that we're not going to know exactly what happened in that case. And by that same token, the young woman, what's her first name? Alyssa Navarro?
I don't remember.
You don't remember either?
Navarro, let's talk.
Yeah, the young girl, last name of Navarro, who went missing in Glendale, Arizona at the age of 14, and she's on the autism spectrum apparently, and she had written a note to her mom saying that she was running away, but she was going to come back. And she was missing for 4 years, and then just a couple days ago, she walked into a police station in Montana, about 40 miles from the Canadian border, and turned herself in, identified herself. They ran tests and etc. to verify that she is Ms. Navarro, and they contacted her mother and stuff too, and the young lady is now 18 years old and says that no one harmed her while she was gone. And of course, due to privacy considerations and all that, they're not making public where she was or who she was with or anything. And when the takeaway is just that it's possible for people to go missing for a few years and be fine and come back, be returned to their families. It's a joyous thing that this mother is now reunited with her daughter. And that's another case where we probably won't know the details, but we know that the outcome was a good one, that this child has been restored to her mom. And the photos of her, she's looking pretty good. So that's a very good situation and brings hope to and let's see. Oh, Edie, yeah. We were talking about the Carlee thing with it, and that's the attention seeking and all that. It was the Carlee case, and then I moved on to this joyous case instead, because we're not going to get any answers about what's going on in the Carlee case. and we may not get any answers either about where this 14-year-old girl went. But I do think that from the case uh, stories and stuff, it appears that the 14-year-old girl, who's now 18, did have a very active social media and gaming history, and it's possible that she met someone on the internet and went and joined them, and maybe they weren't an adult or anything like that. Um, sorry. So that was just some positive and happy, joyful stuff. Is that that girl got returned, and hopefully um, that will be the case with a lot of these other missings that are out there. One of the ones that's blowing my mind is the Daniel Robinson case, which is also in Arizona. A young man, geologist, um, has been missing for a couple, well, I think about 2 years now, and his dad is still searching for him. And okay, and hubby removed the. And, oh yeah, and by the way, that's my husband that's doing all the stuff. That's Another Day in the Car, JuleZ. I'm on my phone, and so I'm not typing on anything. And so whenever you see a comment from me on here now, it's him.
I am talking as
There.
you.
Yeah, he's talking as me, or for me, or with me, or whatever.
I'm gonna go log into the other channel.
Because usually he does it from our other channel, but I just now noticed that he was doing it from this channel. Anyway,
I think I'll go do
those
that.
are.
I don't want to speak as you.
Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, you don't want to speak as me?
No, well, that's not fair to the viewers.
Okay. So, okay, now I got derailed and
Discombobulated.
discombobulated, and I don't remember what I was going to say. So let me see. Edie knew it was you.
Yeah. I know a lot of people
Cool.
did.
My hubbers. My wolfie.
Here we go.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, and my husband mentioned that, let's see, yeah, Barry Murphy was using the Bible against Suzanne, and that's something that he's likely continuing to do with the daughters. A lot of people are asking me, why were the daughters a part of Barry's plan? Are they complicit in the case? And all that. And the thing is, it's entirely possible that they are being victimized by their dad through mental and emotional and financial abuse. And, as my husband said, religious as well. They're a very religious family, and Barry is very strong in this patriarchal thing where the man rules the roost, basically, and he uses Bible quotes to make his point, and then that's it. I've spoken kind of deal. And I know there's a whole lot of stuff in the Bible about obeying your parents or obeying your father and that kind of thing. So he likely has raised the kids from birth in that, and they don't question him. Let's see. And yes, Barry's very sexist. Another reason why Barry is a wanker is that he says that women are only good for sex. And that was a quote from him in the arrest affidavit as
Very
well.
bad man.
And thank you, Edie. Um, I like my Barry is a Wanker series as well. I go off on these things, and I'm going to keep doing it to spread awareness and, um, just take the little pieces. You give the information out in little pieces at a time. Each one well, not each one, because a lot of my videos on Barry being a wanker contain several of the facts of the case. But yeah, bring in pieces that show the evidence that Barry killed his wife, and keep the pressure on so that he doesn't experience any peace, and hopefully he gets so bothered by all this that he gives up the information about where Suzanne is, because at the bottom of all this there is a woman whose resting place is unknown, when obviously it's not a resting place, when it's a dumping place. And she has family members who would dearly love to know where she is, and would dearly love to bring whatever remains are left home and place her remains. It would bring them comfort to have her with the rest of her family. And oh yeah, the OnlyFans chick. Yeah, Courtney Clenny. Yeah, she is the more abusive one in my book. I have researched that case plenty, and I hope she gets the book thrown at her. I also know that Christian Omboselli's family have sued her for wrongful death as well, to help with funeral expenses and such for Christian, and for the defamation of Christian, because she is trying to turn around and say that she did it in self-defense in order to get out of it. But I believe the evidence, especially the elevator video and stuff like that, show that Courtney was the abuser. There have been other run-ins where Courtney was the abuser, and she was the one that was taken away and arrested for attacking him. And yeah, her name is Courtney Taylor Clenny.
Let me go get a link to that.
And she's and her, if I remember right, the actual spelling of her middle name Taylor is Taylor, but her Instagram name is Tailor, and that's her OnlyFans name and stuff like that. And I don't think she went by Clenny on the OnlyFans. I think she was Courtney Taylor on those things. And then of course her legal name being Courtney Clenny. After she killed her boyfriend, she's the one who claimed that it was in self-defense, claimed that she threw a kitchen knife at him and that accidentally killed him, claimed that she threw it from across the room, except for the angle is wrong for that, and it buried itself into his chest cavity and into his heart. That doesn't happen from throwing a kitchen knife. And he died in her arms. And she's another one that had kind of a bizarre, do they call it interrogation or questioning, or what do they call that interview? But the interview, when she's in there with the police after Christian was taken to the hospital, and she even said, I don't think this was justified or something like that. And then she found out that he died. And yeah, I'm gonna help you put in a link to a video on Courtney Clenny.
Another influencer.
Yeah, and I have a couple other influencers who behave badly, and it those are situations I think where privilege comes into play, and I guess narcissism, and just this sense of entitlement where they, they're the abuser. A lot of times, about the male abusers, but it's not as well known that oftentimes women are the abusers and men are the abused, and men are even less likely to report abuse than women are because of the stigma. I mean, because there's enough stigma for female victims and survivors, but for men it's even worse. And a lot of times other men um, harass them, haze them, whatever, going, oh, you're a real weenie if you let that woman boss you around and stuff like that. But it's not okay to treat anybody that way, whether you're male or female, whether your victim is male or female. It is not right to treat people that way. And this whole world would be a better place if more people were spreading love and walking away if they get to the point. If you're to the point where you're gonna hurt somebody, walk the heck away. Get out of that situation. Don't make yourself be that person, and do not hurt another person. Do not break a person.
Hey.
Walk the heck away. And same as if somebody hurts you, don't be their doormat. Don't, you deserve better. Don't take any of that. And there are so many people out there.
Talk about this one you posted in the comments.
Let's see. Hubby showed me. Oh, and another one, Melissa Turner.
I'm gonna post
And
this.
hubby's gonna post that link too. And Melissa Turner is another one. She was also an OnlyFans model, and she also had a temper on her, and um, spoiled brats basically, both her and Courtney Clenny,
Yes.
and in both these cases the female was the breadwinner doing the OnlyFans and stuff like that, and the boyfriend was kind of like the boy toy, and took the brunt of the temper tantrums of these women. And in both cases, the women had temper tantrums and ended up stabbing their boyfriends to death. Um, and both times, she then turned around and tried to say it was self-defense, and in the case of this other woman, um, the court of law didn't see it as
It
self-defense.
takes me a minute to get back in there. I'm gonna get that link.
Hubby's going to get it and put it in here. And, also...
He doesn't like this video. I think it's pretty good one.
Hubby says it's a pretty good one.
The video is well done anyways.
And,
So sorry it takes so long.
Hubby's working to find the link.
It's right there.
Oh, there it is. There's the link to that one. And, yeah, that's one of my pet peeves is domestic abuse, because to me that's a lot worse than stranger attacks and things like that. Stranger attacks are really bad too, and trauma inducing and all that, but I think it's far worse when it's somebody that you trust, somebody that's supposed to love you. And I think that makes it much worse. And that's why I think that DV enhancers need to be taken seriously, need to carry more weight than they do, and need not be dismissed or disallowed or anything like that. And yeah, at this point, I'm throwing shade at Judge Lama in 11th Judicial, the Barry Morphew case, where he didn't want to allow. Okay, I'll mention that one in a moment. Another one of hubby's favorite cases that I did. I'll mention in a moment. But anyway, Judge Lama in the 11th Judicial was presiding over the Morphew case, and Judge Lama's ex-wife is an advocate for domestic abuse survivors, and Judge Lama, for obvious reasons, is kind of like anti going after domestic abusers, and so he disallowed any testimony regarding domestic abuse. He wasn't going to let any advocates or anything testify if the trial had proceeded against Barry Morphew, and that's just like not right. And this good old boy network has got to stop, and domestic abusers need to be taken seriously. For one thing, their crimes needs to be hammered in just how serious these crimes are, and no more just slap on the wrist or stuff like that. It's worse than hey, Jennifer Nobles. And if I remember right, you were a real big advocate and help with Sincere and Classic in the West case, and next month, well, it's not quite August yet, so, but in September, Trezell and Jacqueline are finally going to get sentenced, and hopefully we'll learn more about Classic's fate as well, since the jury was hung on that, and we don't know whether they are going to retry that. But at least Trezell and Jacqueline are finally going to get sentenced for what they did to Sincere. Yeah, you were, and you still are. Yeah, and you were the one that got the whole campaign for getting the billboards up, aren't you? For the boys when they were still missing before the Wests got arrested. I was really wishing that the sentencing would have taken place this month. That's part of the reason why we ended up in California, was we actually wanted to be in Bakersfield for the sentencing, and then we can't stay here until September, so we're gonna have to go back home. But their sentencing was supposed to happen, and then on the day of or the day before, they decided that there was delays and stuff, and it wasn't going to happen until September. And I guess and Edie, I don't know what exactly happened. Why, and I know that they got full court dockets and stuff, and so they had to schedule it for September instead, because the sentencing was supposed to take place in July. And it's just one of those things, I guess. And let's see. And yeah, the video on Melissa Turner that he put up there is another influencer. She's a OnlyFans model as well, and she murdered her boyfriend in their home because they got into a fight. She was mad at him, and she stabbed him. And then she tried to cover it up, saying that she didn't know, and trying to say that somebody else must have broken in and stabbed him or something. And let's see. And then Jennifer saying, I saw it on the news that Robert was trying to get funds to do via GoFundMe. I didn't think they had enough supporters, and yeah, Jennifer, you're a beautiful person, and I'm glad that you stepped up for Sincere and Classic, and it's just a beautiful thing how many people have taken the babies into their hearts and are not going to let them be forgotten. And I feel so bad for Roro with the loss of her mom and the whole thing with the West trials and not getting all the answers. I wish Trezell and Jacqueline would, you know, squirm and tell the truth and let us know what exactly did happen, and where the remains are. And yeah, uh, yeah, Jennifer, uh, beautiful thing that you did, and Duty Ron also. And let's see. And hubby's letting us know
Hey.
that, well, first off, he's asking that you check out my videos after the live ends and be aware that the live chat will be available shortly after the live ends. YouTube has to okay the chat or something. Yeah, I've never really understood it, but I know that when I've gone to try to look, because I wanted to look back at the chat right after lives before, and then there was no chat there. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Why can't I see the chat? And then suddenly, magically, it's there again. Um, I don't know how it works, but what am I gonna do? Anyway, the other story that he wanted to put up there is one called Little Miss Irresistible or something like that, and she's this gal in Texas from years ago, and she moved to Texas in like high school, I guess, and she had alopecia, and then these two really nice popular girls that cheerleader types took her in and befriended her, taught her to make makeup and stuff like that. She became Miss Irresistible at school. She became popular um, because of their friendship and stuff. And then the way she repaid them, they were older than her, and so then they went to college. And the way she repaid them was about a year later, she had gotten herself a boyfriend who was into drugs and all that stuff, and they went to her friend's house and they murdered them and the boyfriend and a friend, four people. They murdered them, and then they went on the run, and eventually they were caught. I think he may have overdosed or something, and she's went to prison, and it took place in the same part of Texas that a couple other interesting stories took place, including I forget her name, but the diaper astronaut lady. I want to do a story on her one of these days, because she's that diaper astronaut lady that she was having an affair with another astronaut, and then he dumped her, and he was dating another female Air Force or astronaut or something, and so she drove from Texas to Florida because her plan was she was gonna kill the other, the love rival, and she raced over there, and she was caught and arrested and all that, and everyone was saying that she wore astronaut diapers and didn't stop at a rest area or anything to go from Texas to Florida to attack this other person. And just I remember it was a really bizarre case. It's quite some time ago. I think I might have been
Little Miss
a teenager's
Irresistible.
thing. Yeah, Little Miss Irresistible. And
I got that link right here.
and let's see, and Jennifer Nobles says, Duty Ron saw her on the news, and he had her on his channel to express her feelings, and it went from there. And then Jennifer had the banners made, and then they sold the banners to make her money back with zero profit for the all the
Bam, there it is.
information for Sincere Classic. And I'm so grateful to you for being able to do that for the boys. And hubby put in the link to Miss Irresistible. Anyway, yeah, that's one of our passions, is the other channel. We've just got some
Actually,
story videos, and we really need to make another
those
story
are
video
actually
soon.
on Another Day in the Car.
Oh, we do have those on Another Day in the Car?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I've
they're full
done-
features.
yeah, full feature story videos, because that's one of the things that hubby and I like to play with, is like doing the B-roll and doing a story and trying to make it be like a, and with sound and all that,
Music
the sound
and
effects and music and all that. And we try to make it like story videos, like a little short movie on these different true crime stories. And that's just something we do for fun.
Murder stories.
Murder stories. That's what we do for fun.
Yeah.
No, he's shaking his head. We're odd.
Well, last time we were here, we went and checked out the granny.
Yeah.
Granny that buried all those bodies.
Yeah, last time we were in California, we went to Sacramento and did the Dorothea Puente story. We went and looked at her house, because the granny serial killer that she wasn't convicted of killing anybody, but she had to have killed those people that were buried in her yard. And there's just a lot we've done on our. Man, there's so many different stories we could do because of all the stuff we've done in the past, the different cases that we followed, and the stuff that we've done, and we're oddballs. We've gone sightseeing
There's
at
a lot
at
more weird
crimes.
stuff out.
Yeah, a
There's
lot more weird stuff
scary
out there,
stuff out now.
and scary stuff. Yeah, that's true. And like, on this channel, I did a, I don't know how bad it is, because it was when I was still scared to talk on camera and stuff, but we did a story about Carrie Stainer, who
yeah, I don't.
murdered
It's on the car channel.
yeah, murdered a woman and her daughter's friend in Yosemite. And what made that story really really weird is that Carrie is the younger brother of Steven Stainer, who when Steven was like, I don't remember how old, but a little kid, he was kidnapped walking home. He was kidnapped by pedos, and he was kept for several years, and then he was like 14 or so. I want to say 14, but I don't know. But he was a teenager when the pedo went and stole another kid, and he felt bad for this other kid. So when he got a chance, he and the other kid escaped, and he took the kid to the police station, and then he also identified himself and told the cops, I know my name is Steven, and then they ran the information and figured out that he was Steven Stainer, and that he had been kidnapped, had been missing for like 7 years, and he got returned to his family, but he didn't have a happy ending for very long. He did have a happy ending in that he returned home, and he got married, and he became a father, but then he died in an accident, drunk driver, um, I think. And anyway, um, and no, not the Pizza Kid. Pizza Kid happened after that, and I haven't done the Pizza Kid story yet, but that one took place in Missouri, and same thing where the guy decided to get another kid because the first one was getting too old for them. And anyway, apparently Carrie Stainer got seriously damaged by what had happened to his brother, and then when his brother returned, him being shuffled to the side, and I this happened in the 70s, so counseling wasn't a real big thing, and so Carrie became rather warped and became a predator himself. And first, he was going to prey on a single mom and her kid or kids, but that he was dating. But then this woman and the two girls were traveling, and they went to the hotel near Yosemite where Carrie was a handyman, and he went to their hotel room under the pretext of fixing something in the hotel room, and he kidnapped and then murdered all three of them, and left them in different areas. And the thing is, with that one, my hubby and I lived in the area and were gonna be part of the search, but then we found out about the wheelbase of the vehicle, and because of the wheelbase of the vehicle, we realized it's the same make and model of our search and rescue vehicle, so we recused ourselves from that case because we didn't want to confuse things, which is, going back to the Suzanne Morphew case. That is why we tried to make our own vehicle and ourselves available to Chaffee County when we went out there to search and such, so that they could rule out our tires and our shoe prints and stuff if it was of any consequence, and they didn't want to have anything to do with that. And that's one of the things that just, to me, seemed odd, that it seemed that the law enforcement wasn't really interested in getting answers in Suzanne's case. And
boy, that Carrie Stainer.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, Carrie Stainer was 2 years ago. The story that I did on it. And like I said, it might not even be that good, because it was one of my first things, and it was when I was kind of scared to talk on camera and stuff.
Wow, that's back. Ooh.
Yeah, it was back a long time ago.
A long time ago.
And yeah, the way I'm talking everybody's ear off, you wouldn't believe that I used to be shy and didn't want to talk on camera.
We do have Barry Morphew's Longhorn Ranch video.
Oh yeah.
If you guys want to see that.
Yeah, I do have a Longhorn Ranch video for Barry, because earlier, we're mentioning that because earlier tonight I mentioned the fact that,
let me get that up there.
I'm going through my notes to find the date again.
Lost in all your videos.
Suzanne was reported missing on May 10th, 2020. Then June 25th, 2020, Barry bought a property in Longhorn Ranch.
Let me get the video up
in
there.
Chaffee County. Hubby's going for the video that we did when we went and checked out Longhorn Ranch, and Barry bought that property for $160,000 from a man named Kent Townsend, and then he sold it back to Kent Townsend on February 17th, 2021 for $150,000, so for a $10,000 loss. And, that's, I've got this inquiring mind, and, it just makes me wonder, did Barry really mean for this to be some sort of investment, and then he really did take a $10,000 loss, or did he do this in order to pay somebody that $10,000, or launder a $10,000 loss, or what exactly? Oh, Jennifer Nobles. I've dived into Jennifer Kest's case. There seems to be a connection with JuleZ somehow, according to someone that's told me things. Ah,
Comments are turned off on that video.
We'll have to go snoop on that. And let's see.
Turn them on later.
Okay, and anyway, Barry has had some weird financial transactions after Suzanne was reported missing.
We're well invested in Barry over 2 years.
Yeah, and Edie says, I can't imagine Barry ever taking a deliberate loss. And yeah, that's why I'm like, was he paying this Kent Townsend guy $10,000 and hiding it through this, buying it for $160 and then selling it back for $150, or what was that about? And really bothers me that on July 13th, 2020, he sold Suzanne's Range Rover to a couple in now I can't read my own handwriting, but Depoy or something like that, Indiana, on July 16th, 2020. He changed the title on July 13th so that he'd be able to sell it, and he sold it in Indiana on July 16th. Why did he sell it in Indiana? And why is it that he was in Indiana on July 16th selling her Range Rover, and then on July 17th there was a check-in on her Facebook in Alexandria, Indiana? And I know that some people say, oh, that was because she was tagged or something. I don't know exactly how Facebook works, but I do know that Barry was in Indiana at that same exact time. And also, why on March 5th, 2021 did Barry say to the CBI that Suzanne made him a monster, and that things just blew up? What was he talking about? What did he do that made him a monster, and why did he want immunity? What did he need immunity for? And then the whole thing with his story with George Davis and all that, and the bike. Why, when you look at the timeline in that arrest affidavit, why does George Davis say that he received a call from a fellow Chaffee County Fire Department guy, Tim Nelson? He got a call from that guy telling him that Suzanne's bike had been found by Barry's house, and then George called Barry on the fire radio, and George is saying it's around 5:30 or 6 p.m. And Barry also stated that this call took place and that he was just outside of Buena Vista, and it's about 45 minutes from Buena Vista to that site where the bicycle was found. And but then the arrest affidavit, the body camera footage, and all that, those guys found the bicycle. The cops found the bicycle at 7:31 p.m. or a little after 7:31, and Barry arrived on scene at 9:30. So why did the fire department call George Davis about the bicycle? Why did they call about the bicycle an hour before the police found the bicycle? And why did it take Barry so long, almost 3 hours, to get from Buena Vista to the bicycle location. Those are some very interesting things. And yeah, Barry's a wanker. I've been on here an hour and a half. I should probably stop talking your ears off. It's been a great Friday Night Live, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Thank you for being here with me. Good night. Love you guys.